Episode 111. Do you know what 111 is in cricket terms?
Um, a glorious duck or something. I don't know.
It's called Nelson.
Is it? Didn't know that. You learn something new every day. There's no point in this episode because we've learned all we can learn today.
Welcome to The Fix. Sit down with copywriting experts Nick O'Connor and Glenn Fisher as they review, discuss, and improve real-world copy sent in by you. This is The Fix.
Their raging war on your savings. Dear reader, I'm gazing out at the horizon as I write this report, and it's crystal clear. An army of 113 million bitter, broken, hopeless TikTok addicts, led by a power-craving ex-president, is marching relentlessly towards us. An army that won't rest until it burdens our hard-working shoulders with its staggering $1.7 trillion debt. Sadly, by the end of its campaign, we can witness taxes soaring as high as 70%, a disastrous 50% crash in the stock market, a widespread devastation of 401ks and IRAs. In a nutshell, the retirement we've toiled out throughout our lives could turn into a harrowing nightmare. I understand it sounds shocking, controversial, and even pessimistic, but where I stand now is exactly where I first saw the rise of Kamala Harris, long before she was on anyone's radar, the bankruptcy of General Motors in 2007, and I quote, riots, marches in the streets, and periods of uncontrollable mayhem years before the George Floyd protests erupted.
Can I just stop you? I'd like to launch a YouTube channel, which is nothing but you just reading. But there's never any commentary. It's just you reading.
Yeah. I was tempted to just I want to one day just start there's loads of jokes where it's like people just reading out Great Gatsby live. I think, did Andy Kaufman do that or something like his stand-up show? I think he might have done. Anyway, I'll read two more lines for you because I know you like it. I've been watching their moves with a skeptical eye for quite some time now, but it wasn't until recently that their plans became clear to the naked eye. Although I could have shared this message with you earlier, I didn't. We'll leave it there because there's a lot to unpack.
Okay, so I know that there's a lift note to go with this copy, as in the copywriter has sent us some commentary on it, which we read just before we came to record and decided we ought to analyze as well. But shall we just talk about the copy first before we look at the...
Yeah, let's reverse engineer this because the clues are in the email and the preamble to the copy, which is a lesson one, because there's going to be quite a few lessons and takeaways I feel from this. Lesson one is copy should just be able to present itself. There should never be any preamble. Obviously, in business situations, there's going to be times when you want to be, let me explain this. But really, deep down, no matter what it is, whether it's in a financial place where this is or something else, good copy will immediately make itself clear. If it's not, that's a big problem. So always bear that in mind. That's takeaway one. But let's just look at this copy first of all, Nick. It's for it's a lift note, an endorsement, an email piece that is attempting to get someone to click through to a full online sales promotion, presumably a video. I believe this is in the Stansbury world, which you're familiar with. And it's obviously a kind of fear-driven, they're coming for your money kind of vibe. That's where we're going.
That's where we're going. Yes. Actually, I just have a few sort of technical pointers to begin with. But sometimes the micro stuff, the really technical writing things actually kind of is your best way into understanding maybe the bigger issues with the copy. So there was two things that I thought at the start. There was too many I's and more importantly, too many theys. So there's only one I, as a writer writing to you, can be made to work in copy. We know that you is the most important word. I can be made to work too, because it's from me to you. So I might talk about myself. They is, we never want that. They is non-specific. They is abstract. They is unimaginable. Okay, so the copy digs itself into a hole by starting, if I can remember right, I don't have the copy in front of me, but so I don't even have the copy in front of me.
Who needs words?
From memory, the first line was an I line and a deeply undramatic one. It was something like, I'm looking at the horizon.
Yep.
It's almost like writing, I'm peeling a banana as I write this. It's like nobody cares, you know. So if you're going to write about yourself.
I'm shaving a banana as I write this would be a better line.
I'm drawing a banana as I write this.
I'm writing to a banana as I write this.
I'm picturing a banana and I'm writing this.
They're reading, picture this banana.
Okay, enough. Sorry. But so if you're going to start with I, it needs to be much more emotional, like I'm as worried today as I've ever been, or more visually and dramatically compelling. You never want to start with I'm looking out over. Who cares? Who cares? So we start with an I, and I'm just going to call it a bad I. Doesn't have to be bad because it's an I statement, but this one is. Mm-hmm. It would be my assessment. And then very quickly, the second or third line, it was they, where they did this, they did that. Now, who's they? It's a non-specific. So I just noticed my wife and son are both in the background. As Glenn said before we came on air, if there's a shooting, we'll have to stop the recording. Although God knows what, it's more likely to be the water gun in my background. For people in America, maybe making jokes about things like that, not so funny.
Also, without what you've done is brought in pre-recording context, without fully doing the context, and therefore you've just said if there's a shooting. So people are thinking, why would there be a shooting in your garden? Anyway. Don't
worry about it. Anyway, so we're getting sidetracked. We're recording this. It's after Fix Fest. Everything's getting a bit loose. Anyway, I and then they. So straight away, before we're even really talking about the idea, I'm kind of bored and I can't really, there's nothing for me to grab onto. So if we have to start with an I, it needs to be much more compelling. And then you do need to establish who I is, really. And that's not done either. So if you get those two mistakes, what you get is this email that's just about things that aren't me. It's somebody I don't know talking about themselves, talking about a group of people I don't know.
I guess what you can bring it down to, because I've got the copy in front of me. You've got an I, then you've got an army of 13 million bitter broke TikTok addicts led by this ex-president. So we've got someone there. Then you've got, then it actually goes to, sadly, by the end of this campaign, we.
Yes, so, that's the other one. So
you've got I, we, they, and what we're really saying is in any piece of copy, you have to have a clear, in the same way you would in fiction, in anything, you have to have a clear characterization. You have to know who your characters are. So if there's you as the copywriter or you as the author of the piece, there's the reader, and then is there an enemy out there who is causing problems to the reader? Those are ultimately the three characters you've got to work with. Anything beyond that, you're in dangerous world. There will be exceptions, of course, but those are your three characters, and you have to have those clearly defined to be able to talk about you. You have to be able to talk about the first person, which is you. Which is the I. You have to talk about the second person, which is the reader. And if you're talking about the third person, that kind of they may be the enemy. They're ultimately going to be the enemy. They're going to be the thing that's having an effect on those other two characters. But you have to have that clearly in your mind. Only then can you do really good stuff where you can start with you and I, and then by the end of it, we, and that's a good way of effectively bringing you and the reader together and all of that kind of stuff. But you've got to have that clear in your mind.
Yeah, and clear is the key with all of these things. I think we're probably reading some of this maybe just a little bit too muddled. So, for instance, we talked about TikTok. What was it? TikTok adult ex-president followers, right? So, something like that. So, okay, I don't quite know what that means, but like I'm assuming it's to do with Trump. So, if we were to just assume that it is that, if the opening says, for instance, like Donald Trump has some very dark plans for your money, okay, enemy, active person, me. That's fine. Okay, but that's immediately much more compelling because it brings me in and it actualizes as the enemy or not. It could be neutral. It doesn't have to be an enemy in the sort of cartoonish sense, but the active agent in this story, they're doing something. If you did want to do him, you'd have to pick a TikTok star, maybe, and I actually think I know what this promotion is for, but I just worked it out. It's to do with TikTok. There's a promotion because I think I contribute to that in some way. It's not mine, but I know the person that wrote it. If there's TikTok, I think the TikTok idea hinges on Taylor Swift, maybe. But again, she might symbolize or be an emblem of that generation of people. Could Taylor Swift make you much poorer next year? That's not great, but at least it brings together a person with an outcome, and it brings me into the story. Now I'm leaning forward a little bit more. But if it's 13 million, if I don't know who they are, it doesn't matter that there's 13 million of them. Like if something's unclear, it's like dividing, it's like timesing something by 0. We don't amplify it by adding numbers and by adding the numbers of people involved in that. If anything, we make it more abstract. It's like someone I don't know times 13 million. So we've got to bring it down to a specific thing. Then it can be specific thing, has impact on me. You haven't heard about it because of this, blah, 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 blah. Okay, now, all the other stuff can go. So here is where I'm standing. I think actually there was a weird callback to that in the copy somewhere where it was kind of like, I'm standing where I stood when I predicted that Kamala Harris, who you actually called Camilla Harris, I think, which is great. Camilla, obviously, the Queen.
Queen Harris.
Queen Harris, which would actually be a good subject.
Queen Harris would be a good subject. I was listening to Anthony Scaramucci predict that she was going to be the president within weeks.
Well, yeah, the zeitgeist is there, but almost all of the devices that are used in the copy get in the way of that story. Yeah. Rather than
there's too many stories. Ultimately, there's too many. There's too much detail, and there's a weird thing going on here where I think about specificity, because we've got so much specificity in the sense of Kamala Harris. There's 401ks, IRAs. You've got bitter, broken, hopeless TikTok addicts. You could argue that this is all like specific stuff, and everybody says you need to be more specific in your copy. But at the same time, there's too much stuff going on here. It's specificity without meaning. It's without, there's no reason for it. It's just flowery Proustian description. That's all it is.
Your ability to describe things as Proustian is second to none.
You basically, if you go to Paris more than 5 times in your life, you get it free as a gift. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, do you know what? So the thing is with a lift, as with all copies, like ask yourself, this is a lift note, an email. What's this really about? What is the idea here? Because lift notes are just they're a smaller version of a big promotion. And so all the same things that we have to do for a bigger, longer promotion, we have to do with a lift note. So we have to ask ourselves, what's this about? What is this about? What's this really about? This email? I can't tell you. And I think possibly the reader can't tell us either. And I wonder if we should just read out the commentary with it, because I think there were clues in that. And I know this is unfair, and we're not reading this out to judge the writer, but there were some clues in there that the copy isn't quite
so let's shift to the actual, let's go actually meta about the whole process of it, like zoom out. But just on the actual lift, I think the biggest takeaway from the actual copy itself is the whole thing about characterization. You've got to be clear on your characters, who you are going there. Specificity has to have purpose. It can't just be for the sake of decoration. There's a reason. It's to better emotionally engage with people because they can imagine it, they can picture it, the more specific you are. And also, every lift note, every email has to have a clear purpose in and of itself. What is the aim of it? What is the one single idea of that will allow someone to get to the next stage in the process? So they're the three takeaways. And a bonus one,
bonus one, which is because we talked about this on an academy course. So if you don't know what the academy is, Fix Academy is where we do sort of one-on-one coaching with people. So we're really reviewing their copy in a more detailed way. There was a gentleman in the academy whose copy we were looking at last week, where the opening line was like, "You're a bystander against you stand by as something happens." I can't remember what the thing was. And I said, don't position the reader as a bystander at the beginning. Same thing here. Don't open with a really low stakes thing. Like, I'm standing here. We made the joke about, I'm peeling at a banana or whatever. But you'd be surprised how many people do that. And it's classic clear your throat. It's like, I'll just say something flat to get me into the writing. And that's fine as a device to get you into the writing, but it should never end up there. So like, I'm standing here doing X.
Good.
So what? It's just instantly, you have to assume your reader is going to just stop reading then, because you've given them no hint that there's anything interesting coming. So we all do it, and it's a really easy mistake to make, but just check that opening line. You might not be able to make it high stakes, but make sure it isn't mundane low stakes.
Indeed. Right. So here's the email. Hello, Glenn and Nick, blah, blah, blah. This is my first copy, one of my first, I'm slightly broken thing, but I'll just go for this. Is my first piece of copy. Therefore, I don't know how to label it exactly. I wrote it in the format of a lift email, but as I finished it, it seemed to be too long. So I was wondering if it could serve as an advertorial. Anyway, with this piece, I'm trying to push people to click the link to go to the main sales letter, which is published by Stansbury Research. Link inside. Thanks in advance. P.S. I used, here we go, bring it back to FixFest. I used ChatGPT a bit just to rephrase some paragraphs. Interesting. There's a lot of interesting lines there. I'm going to take the first piece that struck me in this email. This is my first thing. Fine, like, everybody's welcome to like make mistakes. And hey, if this is the first time you've ever written copy, not too bad actually, because it's fine. It's not right, but it's a good effort.
Can I just break it? I know that you're mid-flow, but everybody's first piece of copy, and frankly, like when I started, it took months before I could write anything that didn't come back with just a red line to the entire thing. Yeah.
So absolutely, let's put that there to the side and hey, positively, yeah, keep going. That's great. That's nice. Here's the thing. Let's get down to like more broad things for everybody as well. Therefore, I don't know how to label it exactly. I've written this form, but I'm not sure what it is. If you don't know what it is, if you don't know what you're going to write, you can't write copy. You can't write what you're going to do. You're just going to, because you're going to sprawl. It's going to have that's going to give us the clue that we got from the first part of this conversation, i.e. there's no real purpose to the email. We don't know quite where it's going. We don't know what format it's in. It's a bit too long. It's got too many ideas in. So it's not a lift note. It's something else. Is it an advertorial? No, because an advertorial would be a mixture of basically an editorial thought piece.
It's really just another type of lift note.
It's a long lift note. But even so, if you were doing that, you'd have more details in it. You'd expand on it. You'd maybe have a story or two in there, a bit more proof. So it just goes to show, and we can see here by looking at the copy first and coming away with the takeaway that we don't quite know what its purpose is, that when the writer's gone into it not knowing what its purpose is, there is only one way out of that: copy with no purpose. So generally, to this writer, but also to all writers, always remember, if you don't know what the CTA is, the call to action is, but more than that, if you don't know what the purpose of that, what the format of that piece is, don't write it yet. You need to have that clearly defined before you start writing any copy, particularly copy. So that was my first kind of warning signal, where it's like, all right, that's the wrong kind of way to approach a piece of copy.
We have to like, we get this a lot with lots of writers of different levels of experience, from people that we've known for 10 years, been doing it, whatever. where I don't know this, I don't know that. You know, when you question them, I don't know quite what it's for. I don't know quite. I don't know means don't write. Just dial that in. Writing good copy is really, really hard. Really hard. That's why it's well paid and you can do it well and all those things. If it was easy, none of those things would be true. So treat it with respect. Of course, you're not going to be able to do it if the answer to some basic questions like, what is this piece of copy for? If the answer is, I don't know, you're never going to do it. You know, like, just imagine you were trying to write a symphony or perform heart surgery. Just imagine all the really hard things. I'm not saying that's all we do, but they're difficult things. So it was like, what are you going to do, you know, if this happens to the patient? I don't know. Let's not do the operation then, mate. Go back and figure that out. Like, we need to proceed from a strong base of strength and clarity. So, and there isn't that here. I've got some solutions that I think you could come back to, but I just want to actually connect that point into the AI thing, which is AI is an amplifier. That's what technology does. So if you are unclear and there is a lack of clarity in the work, AI will amplify that lack of clarity. If you have clarity, it may well, and it's strong already, you may well be able to amplify that strength. It could work either way for you, but it's not this magic thing that can guess what you wanted it to do, even though you didn't know what you wanted to do. That's not how it works. Technology amplifies. Why do you think we measure cars in horsepower? Because an engine is an amplified version of, you know, animal power, effectively. Like, that's how it worked prior to that, and now we have this. It's the same sort of thing. Maybe we're going to start measuring AI in the number of human brains. You know, this is like 10 O'Connor power or whatever. I've used myself as the thing. This is as the horse. But you're never going to, if you're not clear, adding some AI onto it, it's just going to mix it up even more. Even if you're only using it to, like, I don't know what the sentence was, like
rephrase paragraphs. I mean, that for me, that would be the one thing I wouldn't use AI for, to rephrase things. Like, well, yeah, that's hard. My takeaway from the whole AI thing is what the line that comes away is like using it like an intern, using it to do that raw material, to get that stuff there. Then you very quickly realize that the creativity on top of that, the actual human understanding, is in the nuance of how you might phrase something slightly differently. You become the editor to its copy. So if you're putting your copy in and it's editing your copy, you're the wrong way around.
Or if you've written one brilliant line and you wanted 10 more like it, it could give you that, because you give it its, as we say, shit in, shit out. So if you put good shit in, you might get good shit out. But if you put something muddled in, you will get something 10 times as muddled out. So that won't work. The way I would approach something like this is, you need to decide, okay, it's a lift note, for instance. Now, the way I would do, if I was a bit unsure, I'd take some existing lift notes and I would copy the structure exactly. So I'd say, look, this lift note has 3 lines, then a link, then 4 lines, of which 2 of them are double length paragraphs, and then a quote. I'd just be like, right, structurally, I'm going to ape that. That's my goal. I'm going to use that as scaffolding because it just completely eliminates any doubts around the format. And frankly, no copy chief, I know the copy chief that would read that if you sent it into them well. She's not looking at the format and thinking, wow, you've done 5 lines here instead of 4. No, it's the idea that's important. So if you're unsure, scaffold it and put a really good idea, really interesting and unusual idea into that format. That's what's going to get you noticed, I would say, because that's what we're looking for inside the industry. People who can think of interesting ideas and then write about them. So if in doubt, rip the format off. Just steal somebody else's. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You can steal the exact word count of each line if you wanted to. You know, like Eddie Schlaner, when he was talking at FixFest last week, he was talking about how he challenged himself to do the exact same number of words or something like that. Just don't worry about it. You just rip it off. It's the idea that matters. So focus on that. I think the problem is not that the format is wrong. It's that we don't quite really know what this lift note is supposed to be about.
My guitarist in my band used to always come and he'd take like a riff from another band, and I'd be like, Tom, that sounds like a Tool riff. Like, you just stolen that? I go, no, Glenn, I've borrowed and improved it. And I think that's a nice way if you want to avoid like stealing things or whatever other language, but you're borrowing something and improving it. In this case, you borrow the structure and improve your lift note by borrowing that structure, by doing that thing.
And by the way, that's a brilliant hack I would give to all new writers, which, sorry, my son's just banging on the door. All new writers, ironically, yeah, we stage manage this all brilliantly. There's a real crazy to do.
The Jimmer appears at the window with a banana going, picture this banana.
Steal structures, not ideas. So most people rip off other people's ideas. That's what they do. They like this line of copy, so they use it. They've seen this line of copy in somebody else's work, so they take the line of copy. No, don't do that. We can all spot it a million miles away, and it shows no initiative at all. It shows that you just like copy. Great, good. I like music. I love music, but it doesn't mean I'm a good musician. So don't do that. But stealing these structures, the rhythms that lie underneath the ideas, whether that's at the meta level of the whole promotion or just the way something's blocked out in a lift note or a lead, steal that, because I guarantee as your idea sort of takes flight, the structure will just sort of settle into itself anyway. It'll change a little bit and you won't nobody be able to notice anyway. And it's the idea. And just as another way into it, I mean, I've had writers write to me and said, I used your structure for that promotion that they'd just written. And I was like, what? I'd read it and I saw no correlation. So you can't spot it afterwards, but you absolutely can spot a line of copy that's been plucked from somewhere else. And, you know, it stands out like, it just stands out so obviously. So steal structure, not copy.
Yeah. I'm trying to avoid making a reference to Aristotle.
No, I want you to. Go for it.
Quentin Tarantino. No, just thinking about that whole structural thing is that it takes much longer for structures to change as well, in the sense that Aristotle invented the beginning, middle, end, and start in the middle, and what have you. That's been there since whatever times that was, Grecian times or whatever, ancient Greek. But then it got to, if you look at Quentin Tarantino and his kind of films, where again, that is basically Aristotelian, like start with the thing, like what's the head in the box? I know that's not Tarantino, but it like starts in the middle and then it kind of works for it. That same structure has been there all of that time. No one goes in and goes to that film and says, bloody hell, you've gone for the Aristotelian format again, like annoying. No, it's the actual idea in the thing that's there.
Yeah.
Those structures change. You do get new variations over time, and that really changes stuff. And like it's a big, like brand new thing. But generally, as you say, it is the idea that's going to change. So that idea of taking the structure and copying that is fine. The idea that goes into it, that's the bit that changes. It might be a film about fish that starts in the middle, or it might be a film about gangsters that starts in the middle. It's the idea of what's actually going in.
You would, in that metaphor, change the characters, change the location, change those things, let the structure. So isn't it, you know, like, is an alien just Jaws on a spaceship, or is it the other way around?
I think so, yeah.
Like, the seed of the idea is the same sort of thing. This is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. But just change you change all the stuff around it. If I was trying to write
Lion King is Macbeth or something, isn't it?
Lion King is Hamlet.
Hamlet.
Yeah. But again, like, I mean, that is taking some of the content, but steal the structure just because it allows you to use your brain and your creative powers on the things that actually move the needle a little bit more. And in general, those structural innovations are going to come from more experienced writers. I'm not going to say that is always the case, but like, don't make it so hard for yourself. Like, don't try and invent a whole new format when you're starting out. Just use the existing format and bring something new idea-wise, some piece of research you pulled out or something. So just make it a bit easier for yourself, to be honest.
Little thing you didn't know, talking about the, like, Hamlet is Lion King, Jaws is Alien. Interestingly, I read the other day in Empire, the film magazine, Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, that kind of weird culture thing. That's basically a retelling of a really famous episode of Coronation Street.
Oh, how funny you are. Right.
Oh, yes.
Let's wrap this one up. That was good fun. As always, send us your copy. We love reviewing a bit of copy, or any questions you've got about this episode or breaking into the industry or whatever it might be. Always happy to talk about those sorts of things. But in general, it does always come down to the idea. So there's nothing better than just working with an idea and working out how to make it work. Aside from that, Glenn, any final witticisms?
No, I think we've got plenty of witticisms out in that episode.
Yeah, save the other ones we've got for next week.
I'm whittically dry now, whittically empty. I'll have to go and eat 5 more bananas. Where I get all my wit from.
Fun fact, as we've been recording this episode, I've been drawing a picture of a banana.
Yeah.
Hey,
right. On my inner thigh. Okay.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
If you enjoy The Fix and want to get access to even more good stuff, join the Fix Accelerator today. Get access to special masterclasses from Nick and me, watch expert interviews with industry legends, join live copy feedback sessions every week, and get connected to our very own private copy network. Visit thefixaccelerator.com for more information.